Boy,
You might have gotten lucky that first time.
that gets quiet. Welcome to the July 16th regularly scheduled meeting of the Annapolis Planning Commission. Madam Clerk, would you take the roll?
Mr. Svakianudis,
Here?
Mr. Cummings,
Here.
Ms. Butler. Here. Mr. Bellamy. Here. Mr. Waldman,
Here?
Mr. Pline,
Present?
and do we have Mr. Riley?
No.
Yes, present.
Yes.
Oh, we do?
I'm here.
We have a full house tonight.
And see your bright smiling face, Bob.
Oh, there.
Grr. We have a somewhat complicated agenda tonight, and we're going to add a couple of things. The first thing we're going to add in terms of the agenda is approval of the findings for 960 Bay Village and some other administrative business, and then we can get to a public hearing on the forest conservation legislation. Probably then we'll take a break, and then we're going to go into some work sessions. I will describe to anybody here who's not used to them what our procedure is in work sessions, and I'll do that at the appropriate time. I would like to make one other change to the. Do we have anybody from Admiral Heights here? Okay. For your convenience, the work session on the WNAV property was last. And I think because we have a good contingent here of citizens, that I'm going to switch the order of the Bay Ridge Road subdivision, which requires far fewer people and only professionals, and do the NAV property first. But in the meanwhile, we have our formal meeting to begin. So I would like to make the following changes to the agenda. We're going to add the 960 Bay Village findings, and then we're going to vote on the findings for not only 3 Eastern Avenue, but also 960 Bay Ridge. Public hearing then on the forest conservation legislation, and then I'm moving also to switch the order of the Bay Ridge and WNAV work sessions. So with those changes in mind,
Bob, I'd like to also add to that the findings for 01126, allowing long-term rentals in private houses. That was completed, and if the commission is ready to vote on that, I think we should add that also.
it's in the Google Drive. I was not
Yeah.
present for that meeting, so I will not vote on them. So we will add that. Okay. So with all that in mind, do I hear a motion to approve the agenda as suggested?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion on that? Good. All in favor of that agenda, say aye.
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 All right, let's move on. First off, we have minutes from July 2nd. Also posted. Anybody have any questions about them?
I just made one change
That's correct. What is that?
where it says that, page 3, in deliberations, the commissioners affirm that they are supportive of the project concept as a benefit to the community. The project was previously approved and is largely the same. I took out the word largely because I think we were assured that it is the same.
Do you have a motion
I motion to approve that change
with that deletion?
with deleting largely. Yes.
I second the motion to approve with that change.
Okay, any more discussion? All in favor of approving the minutes as amended, say aye. Aye. All right. Any opposed? No. We now have approval of findings for 3 Eastern Avenue. Had the opportunity to look at them.
I'll move to approve as written.
I'll second.
Okay.
Just put the number in the record when you do it.
Any discussion on that? Any edits? No. Okay. All in favor of then approving those findings for the 3 Eastern Avenue, which was SDP 51. And then we have findings for 960 Bay Ridge Avenue.
So did we vote on the Eastern Avenue?
Oh,
We all approve? Aye. Aye.
Aye.
hi. I missed that? I'm moving ahead here. Okay, let's move on to the findings for the 960 Bay Village Drive. It was application 2026-12. Okay, are there any changes to those findings?
I didn't see it on the agenda, and I don't see it, I didn't see the findings in our drive, so I may have missed it completely.
I think you may have.
So I'm looking at the agenda for July 16th, approval of minutes, administrative business, findings for E3 Eastern.
Well, I think we needed to add that, the findings.
Yeah, I notified everybody a couple days ago that those findings were in the drive.
Okay, my bad, I didn't see them or review them, so I won't vote on those.
They're not inside of the, they're inside of the findings, decisions, recommendations, reports folder, not the dated folder.
Yeah, I missed
a little
it,
confusing.
so I won't vote on that, sorry.
By the way, with respect to the drive, I would recommend that everything that's going to be looked at, voted upon, and discussed be put into the meeting date folder rather than findings. It can be moved later and archived under findings and recommendations, but I would suggest putting them into the dated folder.
Good idea.
Okay.
Fair enough. Anyway,
all right.
I had told everybody that's where they were.
Do I hear a motion to approve those findings?
I make that motion to approve as written.
Okay. Any second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? I abstain because I wasn't here. So all in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All right.
And can I have the commission's permission to sign on everybody's behalf for those two findings?
Well, if you're here, the other thing I might suggest is that you authorize the clerk to sign on your behalf.
Yeah, I mean, I can sign them remotely. That
Okay, it's up to you.
we understand the technology.
Okay. We're moving on now to a public hearing on ordinance 1626, which is some changes to the Forest Conservation Act. One of the things I want to remind everybody here is that there's a real time crunch on this, that to get these things enacted in order to be congruent with state requirements. So, and once again, it's legislation. It's merely a recommendation. It's not appealable. So we will probably, I'd like us to come to a decision tonight, and I'm going to drive us to that end, and that a letter will be prepared that can be signed almost immediately on behalf of the chairman. Oh.
It's from the last meeting, 11/26.
Oh, I'm reminded. 11/26. That was the long-term rentals? Yes, I was also not here, so I'll have to abstain. The findings for that were also placed into the drive, and I hope you all had the chance to look at it, do your homework. Okay. Once again, I will abstain because I wasn't here.
I'll move to approve as written.
Is there a motion and a second? Any discussion?
I think Mr. Cummings did a marvelous job with that, capturing the discussion we had.
Thank you.
I do too. It was very comprehensive. Thanks.
Yes, thank you, Quinn. Appreciate it.
All right, well, all in favor of approving that, say aye.
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 Any opposed? No, okay. Now we're done with our administrative business. And now we can move on to a public hearing on the Forest Conservation Act. Is there any staff member here who's coming forward?
Good evening. Brian Adams, City's Urban Forester and Planning and Zoning. So just to start off, this overall, this does not represent a significant change to our current ordinance, and it's really just bringing the city in line with some changes that have been made by the state over the last few years. The reason we are sort of behind the deadline is that we were waiting on the state to produce a model ordinance that we would model ours after. And they were extremely late in providing that. It just came out a couple weeks ago, but we were already into the process of moving this legislation forward. So as you are, this body is very familiar with the Forest Conservation Act, but it's been in place now for 35 years, and this really represents the first major change to the act by the state. The city passed its own legislation. I guess it's been 8 to 10 years now. And the biggest change overall is the policy of moving from no net loss to more of a net gain. The state has been losing acreage over the past, since the enactment of this bill. And so this is an effort to stem that loss and hopefully increase forest land statewide, which obviously aligns well with our comprehensive plan goals. I won't get into really the history or the specifics of a forest conservation plan, but just to say that in 2023, the governor signed the Senate Bill 526, and then later there was a House Bill 1511 that really focused more on the timelines for implementation. This has been sort of a slow rollout from 2023, and then ultimately all of the changes go into effect July 1, 2026. So that is why we're on a sort of a short time frame. I'm just going to go through sort of the major changes. I did pass out a chart that shows those quickly. They are not necessarily in any order. I'm just going to go through in order that they show up in the ordinance. Again, the biggest change is really moving from the policy of no net loss to net gain. We've added definitions that I won't get into the specifics of, but they are in the bill. One major note is that stream buffers have been further defined. We used to have sort of a minimum, and the director could apply more, but the state has further defined those as 50 foot for intermittent and 100 for perennial. We are retaining the ability for the director to increase that based on certain provisions, sensitive areas. There's some exemptions: tree farms, orchards, managed forests, none of which exist in the city that I'm aware of. They've added an exemption for federal government facilities to employ at least 2,500 people. Solar facilities are now exempt from afforestation. And then transit-oriented development and multifamily housing of 25 or more units have a reduced reforestation rate. So rather than 1-to-1, it's a 1/4 acre to 1. The city was currently at a 1-to-1 mitigation requirement. So 1 acre of forest removed requires 1 acre to be planted. The state is now adopting that as well. So they have moved to remove the conservation threshold and just go to a straight 1-to-1 mitigation. We are proposing to keep our conservation threshold, which creates an additional mitigation requirement when you clear under that threshold of 2-to-1. Major change is that will impact the city is that urban areas and urban forests have been added as a priority retention area. So they are now going to be in the same category as stream buffers, wetlands, steep slopes, the environmentally sensitive areas. So that will have an impact on us, and that map of the urban areas has been developed by DNR. Another change is that in an effort to enhance water quality is that all unforested riparian buffers on a project now must be afforested or reforested. So as part of the reforestation plan, those have to be addressed as part of the mitigation. There are some new notification requirements for abutting and adjacent landowners, 20 days, at least 20 days prior to the approval of an FCP. They must be notified. And if there's clearing in a priority retention area, they have to be given the opportunity to comment. Another new addition is that the department or P&Z has to provide a written justification to DNR for any clearing of a priority retention area. Finally, the other big thing is that they've added some additional alternative ways to meet compliance for reforestation and afforestation. The street trees, which we've already had in our code, is retained. And then they've added a few other things like planted green infrastructure, environmental site design practices, and then restoration of on-site or off-site degraded forest. And that degraded forest is now in the definitions. And that has to be a degraded forest that is then enhanced in some way, whether that's soil, invasive species management, it could be planting, so that's another mitigation technique. So those are really the big changes that are in this new ordinance. Again, the chart I passed out has all of those listed.
I have a question. So I know one of the exemptions right now is, or I don't know if it's an exemption, but it says that the critical area law kind of supersedes the FCA. And as you know, that's caused at least one big problem. Couldn't we insert a line that says, unless the chapter is more restrictive than the otherwise applicable Chesapeake Bay critical area? So in other words, say the FCA supersedes the critical area law, or keep the exemption and say unless the critical area law is more restrictive than otherwise applicable.
The state looks at them separately. The state does not apply the Forest Conservation Act. It does not apply to the critical area. So I guess what you're proposing would have to be within our ordinance.
I talked to one of the critical area guys said, of course, when we enacted the critical area law, we were trying to make sure that the more restrictive law would apply, but jurisdictions generally didn't have more restrictive FCAs, but Annapolis does. So he said you could easily, if you wanted to, amend your legislation to include a provision that says whichever is more restrictive, especially in the IDA, if the intensely developed area is more restrictive, then by all means follow critical area law. But if your code and your more stringent FCA saves more trees in the critical area, especially the IDA, then that should apply. So I would propose that as an amendment. It just makes clear what the intent was, since our law has been typically more restrictive than the critical area. I guess we're still in discussion, so I can't make a motion to amend.
What do you think of that, Mr. Adams?
I don't have a problem, I don't see an issue with applying the more stringent code. I think there's a section in our code references a similar caveat that the more restrictive code applies. I believe that's in our chapter 17 with trees and development areas. So I haven't thought through the full ramifications, but it doesn't seem to me that it would be difficult to implement. I really seem to feel that critical area has been more restrictive.
It's been more restrictive, what?
Has been, but in a
More
few.
restrictive than forest conservation, but I'd have to think about instances and where that wouldn't be the case.
Else? Okay. Going to open the public hearing. Is there anybody who wishes to testify here? Please come forward. Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Alderman Rob Savage. Really just here to answer any questions. I know there are a number of amendments. I'm happy to walk through any of them. And Mr. Adams, I think, did a great job of summarizing the legislation. So I could do that now, or if you want me to wait until after public comment.
If you're prepared, let's hear.
Well, do you want me to go through any of the amendments?
That you're proposing to the council.
Yes.
Yes, yeah, let's hear them.
So the amendments, so we tried to keep everything in the underlying legislation to be simply conforming with keeping anything that might be considered new or enhancement as an amendment. Most of these, though, are still related to achieving that conformance. And I can get into that a little bit, but we had to tweak our law to make some of the state provisions work, especially when it comes to the appeal process. So it starts with Amendment 2, which is the stream buffer definition. So this was an amendment because the state actually adopted our more strict standards, which is the 50-foot and 100-foot buffer that Mr. Adams mentioned. But through discussion with the new city attorney, he was suggesting that we create some criteria for the director to use when considering whether or not to expand it even further. And so what this amendment does is just add some things that are already considered in the Forest Conservation Act, such as highly erodible soils, steep slopes, hydric soils, non-tidal wetlands, things that are, again, already mentioned in there. And Amendment 3, and let me know if I'm going to stop. Amendment 3 just implements a annual report requirement, changes it from March 1st to August 31st, and adds a reporting requirement that also, I believe, came from the state. Amendment 4, this is kind of the more complicated amendment. This has to do with the appeals. I know I've been before this body in the past talking about the appeal process, but in this case, the state law made it clear that we needed to have a specific appealable decision point made by the city. And the confusion that we had before was that it was worded as the department needs to determine if something is, if for example, a forest conservation plan is complete and correct. So we needed to change that to actual approval that could be appealed. And that came out of a case law, state case law involving Chesapeake Bay Foundation. That's what drove the state change, and city attorney briefed me on that. And so, but at the same time, we're trying to make sure people don't have two bites of the apple. You still only get one appeal of the forest conservation plan. Can't appeal the preliminary plan, but you can appeal the final. And to make that work with our different tracks of appeals, because if it doesn't come to the planning commission under the current code, it has a different appeal process. And so we wanted to make that, and this is again a suggestion that came from the city attorney, keep it consistent. So currently under current law, some of the appeals go to the Building Board of Appeals, some go to the Zoning Board of Appeals, some just go right to Circuit Court. We're changing that to say all the appeals that are internal to the city are going to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals. If people want to appeal anything coming through the Planning Commission, that has to go to the Circuit Court. So there's going to be no change in that process for this commission. But it is going to allow people to potentially appeal the Forest Conservation Plan before it gets to this body. And I think that's something that this body's mentioned before, is wanting to make sure when you get a Forest Conservation Plan, you have the final accurate document. And so I think this will help increase those chances that you do get that document, the final document. It doesn't adjust any of the stay language. That's still going to continue forward as far as appeals to a local board is going to come with an automatic stay on any kind of forest clearing. And then if there's an appeal to the circuit court, that's discretionary based on the director and the judge, obviously. But that's in our current code. Amendment number 5 is notice of plan approval. This one is just going to create a newspaper posting requirement so that when a forest conservation plan is finalized by city staff, the developer will pay to have it posted in the newspaper so people are aware that this is the final decision that can be appealed. And Amendment 6, this one you may have some thoughts on. This has to do with applicability. And currently, the way it's written, and as I was sitting in the audience listening, I think I might change this, but what drove this is because the state legislation took effect July 1st, right? And that's already passed. And so from this period of time until we get this approved, this legislation approved, any new permit applications are going to have to be reviewed based on the state Forest Conservation Act, not the city's Forest Conservation Act. The problem is, as Mr. Adams alluded to, we've made a lot of changes to our Forest Conservation Act over the years. There are provisions that are stricter than the state's. And so that's going to breed a lot of confusion with applicants if they do submit this month, which law are they going to have to follow? So this amendment, number 6, would basically just say that any applications that are not finalized by the date of passage have to comply with the new regulations. But again, I'm just thinking out loud here. Since I was sitting there, I may change that because I don't want to hinder any projects that are already going through the process, including some that, for example, tonight are going through the process. They may have applications submitted, but I guess not tonight. But in general, you do have developers who have submitted applications that are in the review process, but may not have final approval. So I may change this, and if you have thoughts on it, to simply say applications that have been submitted as of July 1st will comply with the new regs. So anything submitted before that will be able to follow what they were submitted under. I think that'll make it a little easier and not upset the apple cart as far as people who are well in the process. I would certainly welcome your feedback on if that should get changed or not. Amendment 7 is just kind of an administrative fix. It just fixes some of the references to which board of appeals this is going to go to, because we just missed a few areas we had to change. That is all the amendments. I'm happy to address any questions.
I don't have a question. Could you please repeat your name and what office you're with?
Yes, sir. Alderman Rob Savage, Ward 7, Chair of Environmental Matters Committee.
Thank you.
I have a question, just the same question I asked Brian Adams. If you've got 3 different codes that deal with trees, would it hurt to put in this code that it's the more restrictive tree code that governs?
I think that would be a good idea to provide some clarity. Mr. Adams did mention something I'd forgotten about. Chapter 17 does have that provision, but I don't know if that applies to Forest Conservation Act or the other titles, but
So does 14.
that would make
tree.
sense. I mean, especially when we talk about the ultimate goal is helping to achieve our tree canopy target. But again, if we do that, that does place more importance on getting that applicability amendment number 6 straightened out.
Thank you.
Could I ask Steve Riley here? Sorry, I'm beaming in from outer space somewhere. And the reporting amendment, could I just ask what you're thinking, Rob, about, is there going to be some measurable outcomes in those in terms of I don't know, acres preserved or mitigation or enforcement and that kind of stuff? And is that something that would come back to the Planning Commission annually or something? I'm just curious about the reporting side of that and maybe the impact that might have on staff and enforcement.
Mr. Chair, may I turn to Mr. Adams on that one?
Yeah, so the annual reporting requirement is already in place. It's something we've been doing as long as I can remember. It's just the only change here is the due date. The DNR decided they wanted to move from a calendar year to a fiscal year, so it went from March and now it's August, and that happened last year. So Nothing changed there, really. We report on any approved projects and then specifics about those projects, restoration, reforestation, afforestation, fee in lieu collected if there was one, bond amounts posted, all of those things.
And is that report sent to DNR?
It is.
Okay.
And then I just have one other follow-up here on the appeals process. Is it like a restructuring for state law or city, our preferred implementation? What's this intending to solve?
Two reasons for it. One is compliance with the state, and that is in that we needed to clear up when is a final decision that can be appealed by the public, because there was some ambiguity in the current code. And that, again, came out of the state, which is saying that there has to be a decision that can be appealed within 30 days. And the second part of that is, while we were in there, we wanted to clear up and clarify the Board of Appeals, because we had over the years, have had a number of issues with the appeals going to different bodies, and some of the bodies who hear the appeals don't have all their proper procedures adopted. And so we just wanted to get that all straightened out at the same time.
Okay. I mean, I'm just trying to obviously want to
Well, I can.
make sure that we're solving the right problems. Like, how many, are there a lot of have there been appeals to the forest conservation in the last, 5 to 10 years? Is this a problem, I guess, is a question.
Yes, we have had some appeals 5-10 years.
If I may interject, my experience and the experience of some others on this commission that go back a ways is that during one very major project, there was an appeal, and what came out was that our Forest Conservation Act was unclear as to where these things go, and this has been on the back burner to clarify for, 5 years, 7 years, and now it's all coming forward with this cleaning up of this of the FCA, pushed by the state's final action, and they finally got around to doing something. But it was a very difficult problem in circuit court. If you recall, Ms. Butler, Mr. Pline, Mr. Hyatt. Any other questions that could be asked of Mr. Savage? Okay.
I just have one. I know that the LiDAR studies of our tree canopy, I think I saw reference to them every 4 years, but I think they're doing them every 2 years. Could we get that LiDAR update? Or maybe this is for you, Brian. Or
Yeah, so there's two things. The DNR is now going to evaluate the canopy every 4 years. And they're going to determine between that and the annual reports how each jurisdiction is measuring up to the no net loss, net gain. And at that point, they may come in and want to make changes to our ordinance. Separately, the analysis that I've had done for our canopy did not use LiDAR. It's using machine learning and satellite imagery, and that is available every 2 or 3 years.
we'll be using, your analysis will be more accurate than what you give to DNR.
And more often, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Any further questions of Mr. Savage? And any further testimony? Okay. I'll close the public hearing. What I may suggest is that because there are various amendments that are on the table, well, sort of before us, but will also be brought before the council, is that it would make reasonable sense for us to comment on those amendments. So what I propose is that we might want to go down, I would suggest, first of all, going down the list that Mr. Savage gave, starting at number 2 and going through number 7, and that we take a look at each one of those proposed amendments and have a discussion, okay? And if we need to take a vote on any of those amendments, then we can take a vote on those amendments. And then we can take a vote on the whole, which would then include the votes that we've taken beforehand on the amendments. And there's also room for further discussion as to other issues. Does that make sense? Can we proceed like that? Okay, Amendment 2, stream buffers. It adds a criteria for expanding buffers that the head of the department would have to follow if he wants to expand what's already our generous buffer requirements. Any discussion on that one?
Where are the amendments located?
And they're located in Mr. Savage's computer, I guess.
They,
They're in the drive.
they are in the drive.
They're in the drive.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you look in the drive,
Right, there's a document there that lists each one.
that one is in the dated folder.
Sorry, what did you say?
It's going to be 01626 Amendments 2-6 one pager.
Who sent those out? Who put it in the drive?
It is in the drive,
I mean,
correct?
who did it? Nikki?
Nikki sent it, yeah.
I think I put a lot of those in the drive a few days ago.
Thank you.
He's a geek. Is there any discussion on this proposed amendment?
Nope, I think it makes sense.
Same.
It's what?
Makes sense.
Makes sense. Okay, so we don't need to take a vote on that. I'm going to, is there a motion to approve our recommendation of approval?
I'll make a motion.
To this amendment?
Yep.
Let's do it this way, okay? Second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor of? Aye?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye. No.
Okay. Number 3, annual report, changes the date of the annual report, doesn't change any of the requirements.
Yep.
Any further discussion? Motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor of Amendment 3?
Aye.
Aye. Many opposed? No. Not me, that's not a no. Let me just kind of summarize the preliminary forest conservation plan, which does come before the Planning Commission, is not appealable. In my experience, of course, experience can also always change, but in my experience, there's not really any changes, or I haven't seen any significant changes ever from a preliminary to a final plan. As somebody just pointed out to me, the last thing engineers and designers want is a change between the preliminary and the final plan. So it would be highly unusual that there would be a change. But what this amendment does is give a final act from which the forest conservation plan as proposed can be appealed, or has been approved, by the way. And also that the stay, which was instituted in an amendment a few years ago, so that forest clearing doesn't occur while things are on appeal, first of all, internally in the city to the Zoning Board of Appeals, that stays in, and pardon the pun, and I would note that a stay is discretionary to the circuit court judge. But under the circumstances, the damage may be severe, and it's likely that stays would be granted. But in any case, it clarifies the city's internal appeals process. Any discussion on amendment number 4?
Just to reiterate that it's really important to get that to the Board of Appeals and away from the Building Board of Appeals, because that is just absolutely the wrong body to hear these. So I really strongly support this.
I agree. The Zoning Board of Appeals is well-run. The Building Board of Appeals is kind of a, fairyland in some ways. So this would make it very clear that any appeals internal in the city would go to the Zoning Board of Appeals, and if any appeals from that would go to Circuit Court.
Yeah, cleans that up.
Any further discussion on this amendment? Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second?
I second.
Any more further discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Number 5, notice of plan approval. That just gives things, a chance for the public to see what's going on, and that notice be printed in the Capitol. Occurs to me that probably more effective is stuff online rather than the Capitol these days. But in any case, it's a formal approval amendment. Any further discussion on that? All in favor of recommending approval of amendment number 5, say aye. Or a motion? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
And second?
I second.
All right, now all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, I too. Applicability as of date of passage. What we have before us is that things would be, these new requirements and definitions and so forth would be applicable as of the date of passage, which is quite soon before the city council, if indeed it's passed. And that Mr. Savage has said that he might tweak that in some way so that as not to confuse things, and that applications that are in before a certain date would be grandfathered and not subject to this legislation. So, any further discussion? Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. And number 7 was text clarifications. Anything significant in there that needs to be discussed? Okay. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Now, Ms. Butler has proposed that some language be added into the Forest Conservation Act, and not just in Title 17, but to the Forest Conservation Act itself, which is that where different standards apply, perhaps the critical areas, perhaps there are others, definitely between the state and the city standards. But in any case, where there are where there are differing standards, the more restrictive standard would apply. And this would be perhaps amendment number 8, if Mr. Savage is going to propose that to the council. What do we think of that?
I think it makes sense. It's whenever we look across any sort of different systems that have their own requirements, when it comes to floodplain management or anything else, we normally go with the most restrictive. And then there's a crosswalk to ensure that people know how to do that. So I think that it makes sense.
All right.
Yeah, anything that removes ambiguity is good.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, all in favor of adding this recommendation to our recommendation of approval to the city council, say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay. Now, Having done that, I would ask for a motion to approve or to recommend to the city council that they approve it with these amendments. And that's what's on the floor at this point. Any discussion on that? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
And a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion on this now? Okay. The whole package is ready. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? All right, unanimous. So what needs to be done, we've made our decision, formal decision. What needs to be done is a letter which I'll work with Ms. Marquis. And we'll get a letter and it'll be signed by somebody, by either Nikki on behalf of the chairman, if that's okay, or he can do it himself. I don't know. We'll work that out. But this needs to get to the council so that they can do it in their final meetings this month before the August recess. Okay? Any problems with that? No. Remember, it's just a legislative recommendation. This is not a final approval with findings required. Okay? Very good. Okay. So we can actually begin to move forward into the work sessions for tonight. I would like to,
So Bob, before you do that, why
Yes.
don't you adjourn the
Yes.
meeting just to dot the i's and cross the t's, and then we can move into the work session?
or would you like to, what Ts and Is would you like dotted and crossed?
We should officially adjourn the meeting because
I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet.
Okay, all right.
I want to describe the process for a work session. What a work session is it's a preliminary that applicants bring in what they have imagined or propose. And it's an opportunity for us to give our unvarnished opinions early on before the applicant expends a great deal of money for a formal application. It's not on the record. There are no witnesses or anything of the sort. And it is not like a public hearing in which the citizenry is encouraged, of course, at any time to testify during a public hearing. However, people will have questions. And what I propose for those questions is write them down. I may have some note cards, but I don't. If I do, I'll give them to one of staff, and we can distribute them. But write them down on something, pass them forward to perhaps Mr. Jakubiak, or if Brian Adams sticks around, somebody. Pass them forward, and then they'll come to me, and then I will read them for you and get your questions answered, we hope. But it's not a place for public testimony. Now, on the other hand, I've also asked the applicant and staff to make sure that whatever we're talking about is going to be up on the screens, okay? So that you can see what we're talking about, because there probably aren't, they probably didn't bring paper copies for everybody, okay? So with that in mind, we can take maybe a short break, allow the applicants to come forward and get themselves set up, and then we're going to move into the WNAV work session. Any questions about how we're going to go forward? Okay. If you have questions, ask them. It's all a very civil matter in here. Okay. Well, with that in mind, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
And all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Mr. Pline, you have something else to say?
They were
No.
delayed. He said aye. They were delayed. Yeah. Yeah.
Delay.
Said somebody was going to have that on screen. Is it there? I just didn't know.
Up on high, up on the slope.
Okay.
Thank you.
Especially because we've got, right over here is where the bike path is. So the bike path crosses this way. Cuts off right here. So here's where the bike path is. Yep. And it cuts off right here. Because the idea was said to me years ago that this was eventually going to turn into a bike path.
I think Bob. Would make sense.
Yeah, and Eric says, it's quarter.
That's not us. Oh, okay.
I'm very familiar with this area. And I played soccer over that way over Georgetown.
You can probably just leave it on that one because I'm just going to talk and then that's going to be the main discussion. So. Oh, okay. Does it fit in between here?
Move this down so you can see it.
Sure.
Oh, yeah, do you?
Yeah, it's like towards us.
I didn't adjust it from where
These microphones take up a lot of space.
but you know, like we like
Yeah.
Is it better for me just to move over there?
Probably get it.
Slide over. Let me slide.
Sure, no, not at all. Okay. Our cords aren't lining up.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And then, so these are on all the time, so if it's red, it hears you.
Okay.
Ready when you are. Going to formally announce that we're going to begin and going to ask the applicants to begin to take the stage.
Okay. Good evening, and thanks for taking the time to meet with us tonight. I'm Bob McCarthy with Drumloica and Associates. This is Bill Coyne. He's the owner of the property. This is, I'm hoping everybody's familiar, this is the WNAV radio station site at 236 Admiral Drive here in the city. The site is about 7.5 acres total. It's in the R1 zoning district. And you can see on here some of the surrounding areas. The site is outlined in red. It's an interesting site. It's got the radio station like we talked about. There's 2 big towers associated with that and a building that are all planning to be removed with development. There's also, I'm going to flip to the next page actually. There's also a BGE utility easement that runs through the southern portion of the site. The dashed line that runs through here and across is 50 feet wide, so the bottom side is over here. Inside of that are some utility poles and electric. On the 2 utility poles at the southern end of the site, here and here, there's a accessory cellular use attached to those poles, and there's some equipment associated with that on the ground. All of that stays. All the BGE electrical, we can't move that, and we can't move the cellular stuff. So that's proposed to remain. There's also a bus stop on Admiral Drive right at the front of the site. It's kind of hard to see on there, but there's a little bus stop there. And the entire northeast portion that you can see shaded here is forest. So that's all considered forest. And so you can see how, actually, the other thing I didn't mention, the property never, I guess the city never took right-of-way for Admiral Drive. So the property line actually goes out into Admiral Drive. So part of the plan is to clean that up and dedicate right-of-way, which would go, there's other power lines that run parallel to the road, kind of at the edge of the forest here. And so the proposed right-of-way would be dedicated across that frontage. And all these things kind of add up to some site constraints that we have to work around. So the, the right-of-way, pardon me, will I turn the page here? The right-of-way dedication is a little more than half acre. The utility easement is roughly about an acre of area of the site. And then the forest itself is about an acre and a half of forest on the site. So it more or less kind of reduces, we're not really able to use the full 7.5 acres. I kind of colored up a little sheet just to help you guys see, these are the things I'm talking about. So the area that we're working with is the area that's left around that.
7.5 acres, this is only 1 acre.
Well, this is about an acre and a half. This is another half an acre and another acre. So that's about 3 acres total.
It's what? Oh, that's Admiral Drive. Okay.
Yeah, it's just to give you an idea.
That's helpful, that color map is helpful.
Yeah, it helps pop so you can kind of see where things are.
Where's that Admiral Drive? Which one?
Right.
Right there.
I noticed that trees are
Correct.
here. What makes up the rest of this wood?
Other smaller trees, but we've noted, I guess in our earlier discussion, this area is the area that has a lot of invasives that are kind of overtaking the trees currently and kind of destroying the forest. So that's something that would need to be addressed as part of this in order to maintain the forest.
But we don't have a copy of the forest delineation yet, and they will list all.
That's right. And that'll be submitted when this project gets kicked off into the process. Okay. So based on the zoning and the total area, 7,000 square feet per unit, this property could have 47, so just talking about allowable densities, could have 47 units. Doing a planned development, 125% of that allowable brings it up to 58 units. And then the 15% MPDU density bonus adds another 8. So the total allowable for this site is 66 units. Our current proposal is 46 units. So we're 20 less than the total allowable on this site. And that is primarily due to those constraints that I was pointing out earlier. We just, we can't develop the entire area of the site.
What's the average size of the units?
There's a mix. I guess we can turn to the next page.
Oh, we can get to it later if you want.
Okay. I mean, we're just about there. So let me turn the page here. And here. So this plan shows a mix. We have 8 single-family houses along the eastern side, and then we have a single-family detached, and the rest are single-family attached, the other 38 units. Generally, they're all 2-car garage, 2-car driveway for every unit, including the single families. Some of the single-family attached are 22 feet wide, and there's a row of rear loaded that are 20 feet wide for the center units. The end units are all 24 feet wide. If that gives you, does that give you kind of an idea? Yep.
How much space between them?
You're talking about?
The single family.
10 feet. So we're 5 feet off of each of the lot lines is what we're showing right now.
And how wide are these?
These are 40 feet wide. Yeah.
Is that correct?
Correct. This is, that's right. But there's, with the 46 units, we would have 7 MPDUs, right? There's no ADUs being proposed with this right now. And so we talked about driveways. The parking requirement is met, per code with the driveways. All the units also have garages. I think we all know not everybody parks their car in the garages. Some people park one car and the other one is full of stuff. Some people fill the whole thing with stuff. So you'll get some benefit out of that. Plus you have the 2 in the driveway. And then we've also laid out the street so that there's parallel parking on the street. We have another 32 parallel parking spaces around on the street, and actually some on this alley here as well. We want to, open area. On this plan, I'm showing the open area in green to kind of pop. That includes the area that's forested. It includes some areas around the perimeter that'll be planted with buffering to help provide screening to neighboring properties. And then also in the center, we have a park area that can be utilized. The park itself is over 16,000 square feet of usable area that could be for playing. They could build anything in there, tot lot, and have room for other things.
You say 16,000.
It says 20,000?
Well, 20,000 is the total area of this green space that includes these stormwater management devices. The rectangle is about 16,000, the usable space, yeah. Yeah, we laid it out so that there's space for stormwater management amongst the houses. Otherwise, we'd be eating up our park area with stormwater management devices. So we've got stormwater management strategically placed around there. And then there's also, I'm kind of jumping to stormwater management, but there's underground to supplement that for peak management. Because we're aware that the storm drain can tie in down at Parker Avenue. There's also a storm drain out here, so there's kind of a split. We have this part of the site flows this way. Most of it goes down toward Parker, and a little bit goes back here in the corner. So with this design, this area will actually be reduced and cut off and managed. And this area will be very close to what it is in existing. And then the peak management will take this down to or below what it is in existing condition to tie in. We're aware that storm drain system is already kind of taxed on its capacity. So we're going to design to manage peak runoff.
And what watershed are we talking about? Is this going into?
Down that way.
I know where Admiral Drive is.
That good point. I haven't mapped all the way down to the creek yet. We haven't done the actual design. We're just looking at the layout. That is something, we'll do a outfall analysis when we get to that, and we'll figure out exactly where it's going. But
Weems Creek and Cohide Ranch.
Okay.
Reed's Creek, okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Compared, so obviously the stormwater analysis is going to be important.
Absolutely. In addition to that park, we're proffering a hiker-biker trail along the frontage of Admiral Drive that would connect. There's bike lanes on Moreland Parkway, so somebody riding could connect to this, and we were going to bring it through the site and connect to Parker Avenue, which when we were looking at the cover sheet, Parker Avenue connects to Bowie Avenue, to Poplar, Avenue. There's a crosswalk there that connects to the Poplar Trail. So it helps kind of bridge, between bike routes, so people aren't forced to try to, there's a lot more traffic on Admiral Drive to try to ride with that, or you'd be on this sidewalk right in front of the houses there on the other
Can I make
side.
a couple of comments about that?
Sure.
So that's great that you're thinking forwardly like that. 6 feet is a comfortable sidewalk, but really too narrow. If thinking about having two bikes pass each other, 6 feet's not enough. So the standard width for a bidirectional hiker-biker path is 10 feet. So if you're going to do that, I would suggest going to 10 feet. That's going to be most useful. But in general, and nobody will be surprised to hear me say this for the people that know me, but and I know this is going to be a very unpopular opinion, but I really do think you should connect to Parker Avenue for vehicles too. I know nobody wants to have a connection to something else go by their house, but if we take a look at the big picture, ultimately it'll be better for everybody. You can have traffic calming and that kind of stuff if that's what you're worried about. But we have so many spots in the city that are isolated like that would have been so much better had the connection been made when the developments were going in. But once things get sold, people move in, the ability to make those connections is virtually impossible. So this is the time to do it. And I know it's not going to be a popular thing, but I think it's something the city should really insist on.
Second.
That's so unpopular. I think it's a pretty good idea too.
Yeah, I appreciate your feedback on that. Actually, that is something that we considered for this development. From an engineering perspective is where I guess the difficulty comes in. The grades on the property are such that at the high end, which is up at the north, we're up at elevation 72, and down at Parker Avenue, we're down around elevation 44. And the site actually rises pretty quickly after the end of Parker Avenue. So to get a road graded in there at the right slope to come up to grade, we'd have to basically dig out a large chunk of this site. And there's also that utility pole and the cellular use that we were talking about right adjacent to that. So it was, it would end up either that or be a really steep roadway. So we decided it was not really feasible to make that connection there.
I still think it's something that really should be looked at in more detail. And of course, that's a detail that can be looked at later, but I really think the city should insist on that.
It's not that bad. It's a cut.
And the sort of ring road through the development, is that going to be transferred over as a city street, public right of way, or is that going to remain private? Or
the intent was to make that a public right of way, but the alley would remain private.
Okay.
The alleyway.
The alleyway.
Well, I think
was the one
especially
in-
in light of the fact that main ring road there will be public street, I think that the connection's pretty important.
That stays private.
What I'm saying is make this public, but keep that private.
I understand.
Correct. Yeah.
I don't know. I lived in Pittsburgh for years. I think that I've heard in this city more than any other city I've been to that we use steepness as an excuse for things. Because in Pittsburgh, I'm like, that's just a normal road.
Okay.
That's right. we alluded to stormwater management. I already kind of gave you something on that. The site obviously is served by public water and sewer. The thought was to loop the water from Parker out to Admiral Drive, and then of course around the interior of the subdivision, and then the sewer actually connect down to Parker Drive, or Parker Avenue, I'm sorry. Now, what's interesting also with the forest conservation, the forest area that we have, we're retaining most of it. And when you meet the threshold, it actually ends up being less than 20,000 square feet of clearing. So, technically we would be eligible for an exemption subject to a notice of intent. So currently we're not showing the easements, but of course this would be retained and this would become buffer anyway.
So you're not saying that you're exempt from the park?
We're retaining the forest and we're going to be doing planting back here, but technically we don't have to, we're going to be exempt from Forest Conservation Act.
See, I think I read, I think you can easily by, I think, what you're proposing. About that. And I also was just questioning the deductions you have, like B, total tract area 7.57, and your deductions include 1.34, but I think you've explained it because it's not in the critical area. Those are for the BG&E easement and right-of-ways.
That's right.
Okay. Yeah, but if you use those numbers, you still have a net forest retention of a certain amount.
It meets it. That's why I left that on there because it meets it, but.
Yeah, but I saw in your footnote that also that you thought it was exempt, and I don't think it is, but we can leave that too.
Is that final determination made by Chris's office?
Yeah, yep.
Okay.
I think Brian was, yeah.
And I guess on that same note, regarding the connection to Parker Avenue, that idea, does DPW make the final decision on whether that's feasible, or like how does that, like if we can't do it and we come back later and it's not there?
We sort of highly recommend it, and then if it's a cost issue and you don't want to do it, I mean, I think it's ultimately the planning commission gets to approve it or not approve it. But yeah, I think working with DPW is the way to go. I have a quick question about stormwater. If this is a private road, could you use permeable pavers or something that allows more infiltration of the water here?
It's possible. What's maybe hard to see on here, I actually have an underground storage structure running the length of that.
Perfect, yep.
So these microbial retentions most likely will do filtering and overflow into this underground storage. Got another one up here and another one down here, doing the same thing. That's what's helping to get to the peak management volume that I was talking about.
So you couldn't necessarily make that permeable?
Probably not with that underneath it already, yeah.
And if these are public roads, you couldn't mess with permeability there because the city wouldn't want that.
Right, and we're not proposing any devices within that public right-of-way. That's, right now we're showing sidewalk on both sides, actually, yes.
You could put buffer trees back here, not just shrubs, right?
Correct. The intent is that this is actually the 35 feet minimum width that you would do for a forest con easement. So the intent is to have this be a buffer around the entire perimeter here. We have one point here where it's a little tighter. This lot is 20 feet, just at that corner, but the rest is 35 feet minimum.
Could you make that house a little shorter? Make that your MPDU?
Yeah, I mean, we could take a look at that. There may be a way for us to slide these over a little bit too, to get this, to increase that distance. So we can look at that for sure.
Are your MPDUs going to be the size of all the other?
Right now, they're going to be similar to they'll probably be one of the center units, probably not N units. But we haven't identified specifically, probably. We haven't identified specifically which ones yet. Is there a criteria? I'm assuming you don't cluster them in one spot. They probably have to be, right, that's my assumption, is we would probably have them scattered in each row.
And unfortunately, they always seem to be the smallest, most cramped units, which I don't
Right.
prefer, and I don't recommend.
That's pretty much the presentation. Was there any other concerns or questions anybody else
Just a
had?
question, obviously, it's too early for you to do adequate public facilities, but have you looked at the traffic on Admiral Drive and how dangerous?
So we have actually already ordered the traffic study. You know, the city coordinates that and conducts it. They've already done the traffic counts before school was out, but we don't have the actual results of that. We don't have the report back yet, so should be
And to
getting
look at how
that
many
soon.
accidents happen on Admiral Drive over the,
I mean, they're going to follow the criteria required for analyzing the study, yeah. And looking at capacity and adequacy of roads.
in terms of schools, this will accommodate.
Schools are currently open, the high school, middle school, and elementary school.
This works as park space for adequate public facilities, Parks and Rec. There used to be a requirement that it was 500 square feet per unit or something, and now that's been watered down. So if the adequate public facilities rule, if you can't comply, you can mitigate, and I'm sure that's.
Yeah, for our total, you know, the city doesn't seem to have an active or passive recreation distinction. You know, our total open area, great, you know, which can serve both, greatly exceeds the required. So if you do the math on 1,000 square feet per single family detached, and then 750 square feet per single family attached, our total required is 36,500 square feet. The total open space here is 151,891.
Oh, so you're count like the space that you preserve over
Counting
here.
everything.
You're counting that as.
You know, it's possible you could do a mulch trail. You know, we have the bike trail. This is going to remain open across the south. The trail we were talking about is going to come through there. We'll have a park area here. And then even the stormwater management areas they'll be green, and, you know, there might be room here for a bench or something, you know, on top of this underground. There could be some other things we do to kind of supplement that.
And then my favorite topic, parking. How are you doing on the parking?
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, we have 2-car driveways for all the units. Sorry, I'm just flipping to my parking section here.
Garages and parkways.
2-car garages and 2-car driveways.
76 spaces, I guess, and then.
Yeah, so total parking for the 38 single-family attached requires 2 spaces per dwelling, and the 8 single-family detached requires 1 space per dwelling. Not sure why it's only 1. That's a total of 84 required. We have, not counting any garages, we have 92 on the driveways, and then we have another 32 in the street that are actually bumped out beyond the actual drive lane. We have, so that they're not obstructing the traffic. We have 32 parallel parking spaces for a total of 124 spaces. It's not counting any garages, so there still could be a few cars tucked in the garages. So we're well above the minimum required.
A lot. That's it for me.
Yeah, we were made a point to make sure there's adequate parking.
You mentioned an invasive species that's threatening that forest area. So how would that be mitigated? And what kind of plants or weeds are trying to take over?
I'm not a landscape architect myself. My observation is there looks like kudzu or something is just kind of growing over and killing some of the trees.
Also English ivy.
Oh, English ivy's in there too?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Bamboo.
A little bit of everything.
Yeah.
It's a lot of trash. That's kind of stuff that needs to be removed.
Yeah, I would think as part of the landscape plan, when we get a landscape architect on board, that would be part of doing the buffering and plantings, stormwater plantings, and then addressing that. Kind of all ties together, I think.
Done?
I'm done. If there's any other questions, I appreciate everybody's questions and input.
I'd like to make a few comments. That's
Sure.
not unusual for me.
Sounds good.
The comments that I have, first of all, access. Okay? Ingress, egress, and the consequences to everybody else around. Okay? So you've got I forgot how many total units.
46.
46 units. That's 90 people in the morning and 90 people in the afternoon and so forth and so on. The problem exists off this document, and that problem is the intersection of Poplar Avenue and Admiral Drive. It is virtually impossible to get through there mornings, afternoons, and sometimes during the day. And this will affect that greatly. Now, if you run through Parker Avenue, and you might ask the people there, what they think, but if you do run through Parker Avenue, that will take off some of the requirements that people have to go in that direction. In other words, out to Poplar and take a left and go off into the world, okay? That's one issue of the access, but what's not on this paper is the most important intersection, okay? The second thing is that your main access comes right out into the middle of Admiral Drive, okay? There's a curve here and so forth and so on, and I'm sure you can get a traffic expert to say everything will be all right, but it doesn't go anywhere, okay? And this is a fairly well-traveled street. And there's all parking all along in front of all of these houses on Admiral Drive, on the other side of Admiral Drive. So it's quite narrow, okay? And so now you're talking about adding a significant amount of traffic onto here and going in either direction. And it's not there. The sad thing is that the real, if in an ideal world, which we don't live in, but in an ideal world, this would be your excess, Moreland Parkway, okay? Because that will take people out to West Street. There's a stoplight there and so forth and so on. I don't know what you can do. I have no idea what can be run through there or not, but in an ideal world, that's that. In an even more ideal world, perhaps a fantasy world, the other way is, now remember, this is going to put a lot of pressure on the intersection of Poplar and Admiral, okay? And you want to relieve that intersection. So in an ideal world, fantasy world, I'm sure that the people in Admiral Heights are not going to like me after this one, but that's where it should go, okay? Because that puts it out there. Now, one of the things to remember is that not all 90 people are going to go in that direction. They're going to want to go in other directions as well. So the amount of more load that you would put on in an ideal world would not be that great. But you'd have to buy a house.
This actually might be more feasible.
It might be more feasible to go straight through without buying a house. Okay, so the access to this property is the key to its success. The other thing that strikes me is that you have this beautiful open space here. Move these 4 units. I don't know where you're going to move them, but that's what people are paid, good amount of money for. If you move those units, you now end up with a development, a community, which is really nice. But with these units impinging upon your central common space, you have lost a good bit of value. Probably more value than what's in those 4 units. Follow me? Now, if you can move them, if you can rearrange a couple of things, because this is just concept at this point. That's what a work session is for, okay? So that's what I would say.
So what do you think about just, moving the?
No,
park there and putting
off the
units
central
there?
green, off the central green. If you have a central green like that, you have yourself a really nice community. The prices that you can sell these homes for has just gone up. Pencil it out. I don't know what sense that will make. It's your pencil. But I could not vote for this because this is the heart of this community. Now, the other thing I'm looking at is these properties on this, quote, alley, okay, they should be turned around. They should be turned around so that the fronts face this gorgeous green space. And the backs, which are also here, you've got these driveways, and the backs, the driveways should be over here. Got me? Okay? And so these properties, which now have their fronts looking out upon this beautiful central green, the value of those, the sale price of those properties just went up. Okay? I'm not crazy about this alley. I don't see the need for it. I don't see, what's the purpose of this thing? Okay? Especially if you put the garages over here, okay, which face these people's garages, okay? You don't need this alley.
That's true. It could be a pedestrian corridor.
It could be a path.
That opens right out to the park.
Opens right out to the park. So every one of these, and if you put a front porch on these townhomes where people can sit and see people walking by, and there's a walking path around the perimeter of this thing, you have now raised the value of every single property here, the sale price, okay? Okay? Porches. Now, I don't like the fact that these houses all face, their driveways all face, but you're going to have to do something with the architecture and decks and so forth, because people will want to spend time on this side. This side faces, for people, social animals, okay? I'm sorry I can't show my red thing on the thing, okay? You follow me? But flip those, get rid of those, and start thinking about your access in a much more comprehensive way. And remember, Admiral, Drive, and Poplar. And that's definitely within the traffic study, boundaries. It has to be studied. And it's just the saddest thing in the world is that you can't go onto Moreland Parkway. This, I think, is really a problem. I think you're just asking, how can people going to get in? Can they get out? I don't know what to say. But just remember now, I know you put a lot of time into this. It's just paper at this point. You follow me? You haven't really done your engineering.
That's correct. This is a layout.
That's the purpose of a work session. Site design. So, do I have anything else to say? I don't know.
Those are great comments, Bob. Thank you for making them. It's
No, that's, you're spot on with
Appreciate your
almost all
feedback.
that. I mean, Admiral Drive's already a mess.
It's a mess.
And that cannot be the only
Right.
entrance.
Really
That
need to
cannot be
think
the
about
only
what your
egress.
primary access points are going to be. And it's so sad to get onto Moreland, you know, don't know.
Yeah, that doesn't look feasible because it doesn't align with the property.
It's in line with the property lines. You need like 25 feet, you know? And then people can get, and I don't know how you do it. But the other thing is that these aren't parking spaces, are they? No.
Yeah, those were some parallel spots along there.
You got enough parking.
You're over here, you're parking.
We're good on parking. Okay.
You got enough parking. But that's, the thing is, the more ingress and egress points that you have, the less pressure it's putting on not only the people who live here, but the people who live around here. Okay? Because there are 2 or 3 ways to get in and out. And that may mollify my friends and neighbors in Admiral Heights, or it may not. But I think that it needs to be some really creative thinking here. And really thinking, like even talking with the traffic guy who says, look, what if we did this and this? How much would it, you know, which way, how much traffic really are we going to generate ultimately to Cedar Park? Or down Parker? Still not great, Parker. It's just an option, but it's not like the option. Okay? Those are my thoughts.
They're good.
Maybe just thinking, you know, a connection to Parker also would probably become a shortcut for through traffic.
No.
People trying to avoid Poplar, you think?
No. You can design that so that, you mean outsiders coming in and through?
Or just anybody.
Wouldn't help
Just
anybody.
avoiding that, you know, if I knew I could go through there and not have to worry about trying to make the left turn at
Google's never
Poplar.
going to reroute you that way if this is all blocked up here.
I mean, look at the way the library, okay, which is not very far, which is another amenity for this project. It's walkable. Look at what they did. They had the same concern that between West Street and Poplar, that people were going to cut through. But they made it so complicated, nobody cuts through.
Yeah.
So make it complicated. You know what I mean? So only the people who live there know how to get in and out. Okay.
We'll look at it.
Okay? And, you know, I don't know. I hate giving up trees, but if you have to give up a tree in order to move this off,
See, I would even recommend that I know that single-family homes, people want them detached, but you got a lot of space that can be condensed over here. And I don't think that I think they're going to sell whether they're attached or detached. It doesn't really matter. So a lot of space can be made up on this side. I agree with Bob 100% that people want to be able to open up to a park space. They want to be open up to a livable space that is for the community. So the idea of having your parked cars be the front of the house is always a trash option for me. I like the idea. I love the idea of the parked car being at the rear of the house, front of the house, always opening up to this community space that people will enjoy.
with porches.
Yeah, there's 10 feet between each one.
You could add another unit or two.
With the planned development, I need to have a certain amount, I need to have some of the single families on there. Because that's the R1 base use, and then the single family attached are the planned development uses. So, you know, I don't know that I can't go all single family attached.
Yeah, actually, the de facto allowed use is single family. What the developer's proposing to do is use the plan development process to integrate townhouses into it. But the townhouses can't exceed 30% of the total area. That's where they are. So that's why there's a mix, and probably why the math works out to that leg being devoted to single family. I would say that
Have 10 feet between the homes?
between the single family homes, not within the planned development, we can set the terms, you know, as part of the standard. So there may be some flexibility there. Bob has mentioned a number of things, and some of the other members that we and the staff have been working with the applicant on, so I actually appreciate that. Having a central green or a large green is in many respects a kind of a theoretical approach to a community design. What's more important, though, is that the space be allocated in a way that's usable, visible, accessible, and it doesn't become the backyard to townhouse units, because then it becomes the backyard of townhouse units rather than a community amenity. And right now, the concept plan is still in that stage of evolving to something much more formal and elegant. And we've worked with the applicant and to take it to the next stage. And I have plans that our staff have done. I'm not going to share them tonight, but I think we'd like to continue to go back to the concepts that we've been trying to guide you towards, which address these very same issues. In fact, we would imagine that open space can be reduced in size and still be a much better, the central open space, much more elegant gateway into the community that is responsive to the needs for open space from the residents across the street as well. Your comments are spot on the open space and how it's addressed by the development. And we'd like to continue working with the applicants. The engineer has been fantastic to work with on this project, and we just need to go to the next level in terms of quality design. But I think we're getting there.
On bad start.
Yeah, right. And to their credit, they've gone through multiple revisions, and you don't see the complexities and complications that they've had to wrestle with in terms of stormwater and grading and all these other utility issues, although they've alluded to it as a practical matter. Sitting in the room with them with tracing paper, I could see that this sort of design is ultimately what's left after all other things are tested. So it's a matter of making this design a little better.
Are there any written questions that want to be submitted? Okay, here's questions. I know I screwed up my... Okay. What is the proposal for privacy or coverage? Privacy between the north and east sides of the property to Cedar Park residents. This, I think if you can put something on your computer to show what the north and east sides are and then describe what you're thinking of.
So if everybody can see the cursor, it's on the east side. So we're showing an area of 35-foot wide buffer. Currently some kind of scrub growth there, but that would be a planted buffer area. And then same thing to the north. So this is all going to be enhanced to be more of a substantial buffer that's 35 feet wide.
You said that you'd put trees potentially in those areas as well.
Right.
Correct. Yeah, it would be planted to provide actual screening buffer, right?
What is the price range expected for these homes?
For that to Bill.
It's too early to even, it hasn't even been considered for a minute. It's just,
It won't be cheap.
solid ground.
I mean, they won't be cheap, but
Yeah,
they're
a
also
lot
going to sell.
expensive, I tell you.
Yeah.
Just, everything keeps just changing.
Okay. Really, price of wood.
Price of wood.
The price of wood.
Price of everything is changing right now.
Right.
Inflation.
Yeah. Could you please tell us what the fine print is up in the diagonal property line in the northeast corner? What is the plan there? Can you read it?
Say again? So tell us what the fine print is in the diagonal property line in the north. So this right here, so that's the fine print is, we're looking at so the lat long is there, and then it also says parcel 0464, 1,000 square foot, or 0.3 acres? Is that what people are asking?
That's an adjacent property there? Yeah.
That part, that part.
This? Yeah, that just labels the adjacent property.
Your property line is the green hash
This
mark.
thick line is the actual boundary line.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
There are already problems with Navy Stadium traffic and summer bridge traffic. Waze, okay, Waze, W-A-Z-E for, brings people through the Admiral Heights neighborhoods to try, you know. Well, like I said, I really think that this can be designed so that it's not a cut-through, that people won't use it as a cut-through. But there are already problems. The problem that I identified is Admiral Drive and Poplar. The city just spent about $350,000 to add a sidewalk to Cedar Park that narrowed the travel lanes for Cedar Park. The traffic makes this road more unsafe. A traffic study should be required for Cedar Park. In other words, what would be the consequences to Cedar Park if there were a Parker and a Cedar Park access? I think it would be considerably less. I mean, that's just my feeling. I'm not a traffic engineer. Okay? Okay?
If a connection is able to be done, that would definitely have to be
If it's able to be
analyzed,
done,
for sure.
right, if it's able to be done. One of the sad things is that some years ago, one of the people who did own one of these houses, maybe have been over there, wanted to sell it, and then he sold it at a pretty cheap price, but I don't know what's there now. Okay. Got enough?
Yes, appreciate everybody's input. Thanks again.
No, thank you. Good work session.
All right, good. Let's take a quick little break, and then the Hyatt team can approach here. He's action's going.
Oh, sorry.
It's all right. Just didn't want to take your notes there.
No, can't even read them myself.
Do you mind if I take these?
There's
with me?
the staff's version of
It's
that
got those
plan.
markups in there.
Yes.
Oh, do you? I didn't know that. Okay. Yeah, it's tough, man.
Hilltop. Yeah, where there's some really obvious
Well,
trees.
we'll
to
see
me
what the
that
traffic
get
study
their ivy
shows.
taken off, so we're gonna do that. But they want to do it in the fall when it's cooler,
Okay.
but not many, there's like 2 trees I spotted.
So they did do some work there.
Oh, yeah. But it'll take a while for the ivy to die, because they cut like a window this high between, just so that there's no more nutrients that can get to the vines to grow. But that top part won't start dying off for a while.
Wow.
I know, it takes a while. And then when it starts to die, people are like, our trees are dying. And we're like, no, the
No,
ivy.
the
that's
ivy's
killing
dying.
it."
The trees are fine.
Trees are
The
fine.
trees are happy.
Yeah, exactly. I think I saw you on West Street for Wednesday night, like last Wednesday, dining in the stars. Were you there?
Yes. I was there.
I was walking through, and I was with a big group, and I went to turn around, and you had already walked by.
Yeah, I try to check that out every Wednesday if I can.
Yeah.
At least listen to see what kind of music it is.
Yeah. Yeah, when it gets really hot, I don't want to go up until the sun really sets, and then it's cool enough to sit outside.
Believe it or not, I actually sat out there for a little while. Yes. And that was a mistake.
Yeah.
It was so miserable. Air quality, not only the heat, the
Air quality. Oh, yeah, we were supposed to play tennis tomorrow. The air quality is so bad. that we're canceling.
Canadian forest fires and pollution. No, the haze is so unhealthy.
Yeah.
And when I got home last night, I said, that was a mistake. I said I was there for an hour. It was a nice drive. But it was a mistake.
I gotta get out of their way.
How you doing?
Especially if you've got anything with your lawn, you don't want to be out there. Yeah. It's like back there, especially when it's storm, it's like falling into our yard. And Rodney's property and my neighbor. There's definitely.
Whose computer?
I think that was Dan, right?
But I'm always around.
Dan has.
That's when you get to do all your stuff.
Is this like a? It's the city computer. Yeah, it does. So I think it is. We're gonna put a plan out, so I would love to be able to.
Still gonna put it up on the screen, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
they have.
Oh, they have it up there, okay.
The thing they don't have is the existing conditions, which I want.
Documents we had are up there, you can just click between them.
You gotta tell her she doesn't.
I realize this is just.
Since the last time?
How do I turn this off?
It's always on, this way.
Okay, that's right. The green, flashing green says we're not on.
The red is off.
The red is on.
The red is off, right?
This one is still on. How are you?
How are you?
Good, thank you.
Liked it better when you had to push it.
Tom, how are you?
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
How's everything?
Everything's okay? Good. How about with you?
Can't complain.
Dad doing okay?
Dad
I saw him a few
doing-
weeks ago. He seemed to be okay.
He's doing just fine.
Good.
Yeah.
Glad to hear that.
You know, he's very routine.
He told me
walking
that.
the mall.
He told me that. Yeah. Good for
That's the
him.
thing to do, when, especially when air quality is bad.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's 99 degrees out.
Yeah. Maybe he got that from your dad. I used to see your dad walking the mall.
If my parents walked that mall, I did.
I'm not far from being a mall walker.
I think you get to a certain
Yeah,
point, right?
I'm telling you.
It's okay.
You're on the
right?
treadmill at the gym.
Yes.
I do have an extra one of these, just the second page. I don't have an extra.
That's all good, thank you.
All right, you ready for us?
I think so.
I think so.
Okay.
Let's go.
All right. You know, you called this the Hyatt team. It's not really the Hyatt team, it's the DeCiceris team. Hugo DeCiceris is the guy that knows what he's doing. He's been a residential builder, developer for many years, and you all had seen this at a prior work session, and there have been some significant changes made since we last met. There's a big reduction in density. There's a significant addition to open space, green space. And you know, this property, it's a little bit of an odd situation. We're here on a property that's really not even in the city of Annapolis at this point in time. So, I mean, this is like, you're talking about a work session and preliminary. You know, we haven't even gotten to first base yet. We have a petition for annexation pending before the city council. And they're going to have a preliminary meeting about it on July 27th at the next meeting. And this was going to be a Lidl grocery store. And that decision was made by their headquarters at some point in time that they did not want to go forward. And the intent was to develop it in the county, to build this in the county. Now, this sits at the end of Bay Village Drive. You know, it connects over to Edgewood Road. You have a lot of connectivity here, and you have a mix of housing types. You have senior apartments that you just approved, you know, just tonight, I think, the findings. And then, of course, you have assisted living in the rear, and you have the Starbucks, which is a busy Starbucks, and CVS, which gives access to a traffic light. We have another signal here, And what we showed you when I was not here last time was about 50 townhomes, and now we're down to 39, which is, as I say, a significant reduction. If you look at the plan, this is a lot of.
This was the previous plan. So you can see this whole area was removed.
But today you have building footprints that cover 15% of the lot. I mean, that's not very much. And the roads and the rights of way cover another 30%. You have active recreation area, and you have a significant amount of forest here. It's 14,000 square feet greater than what it was before. 42% of the total forested area is preserved in an easement. And my understanding was you didn't like it too much last time, and we think that this is a pretty attractive project that will be in demand if it's approved, if we're annexed and then we go forward and it gets approved. So, we would certainly like your comments on the revisions, and is there anything, Jennifer, you would like to add? Yep.
That I would like to add.
Please do.
This is the Planning Commission. I think we'll talk a little bit about planning. The Bay Ridge Road corridor is talked about as a mixed-use corridor. And this diagram aims to demonstrate walkability in this area. This circle represents a half area. Within that distance, we have a number of commercial small businesses, small local businesses. And we see this piece plugging into this overall puzzle of the mixed-use corridor. The residents that would live here would have numerous connections, which I'll get into, to then walk or bike to support these local businesses. In addition, there was talked about, mixed-use development, and in the city's comprehensive plan, there's 2 neighboring sites that are proposed for future infill. So this site is designated as future site for sewer, indicating housing use, based on smart growth principles designated by the state. So I just want to kind of set the stage for the context of this property. In addition, there's 370 acres within 1/2 mile in either direction available as active recreation.
Is future infill, is that the Giant?
That's the Giant, and then this is the Hillsmere Shopping Center.
While we're on the subject of mixed use, sorry to breathe a lot of smoke today. I quit smoking 20 years ago, is what you get. On the topic of mixed use, if you look at West Street, which I think that we all would have to say has been a very successful mixed use corridor, most of the parcels on West Street are single use. You got a hotel, you've got the townhouses, you don't have a mixed, most of the parcels do not mix uses on a single parcel, but because there's a mixture of uses up and down the corridor on the separate parcels, it's successful. And that's sort of what we're envisioning is going to eventually happen down here. Because I know there's been discussions, well, let's make this parcel alone mixed use, but that's not necessarily how you can create a mixed use kind of feel and land use pattern.
And in addition to that, I think a lot of townhome developments get built as insular environments. This one, we have been encouraged to think future forward. And what we've done at the recommendation of planning and zoning is split the middle of the site, which really dictates our design, with a future connection. So the idea here is that this is in the comprehensive plan. This is the goal, these future infill sites. And the city really saw this as, wow, what an opportunity. If this parcel is annexed into the city, we can then direct a future connection on Bay Village Drive all the way to eventually Hillsmere Plaza, which then helps to alleviate traffic on Bay Ridge Road. It provides that, alternative route. I want to say that, I think something to consider when thinking about the housing is that the housing shortage is not just an Annapolis situation. It is a state situation, it is a federal situation, as shown by the recent legislation that has passed. While the comp plan does recommend to allow a diversity of housing types so that we do get away from single-family homes and we start to see some amount of density to provide housing, we've added 39 units, which, as Alan said, only occupies 15% of the total site acreage. So 15% of the 5.276 acres is the actual floor area.
I know, but you've got streets and curbs and driveways and impervious surfaces all over the place. So, yeah.
So you have to have streets. The streets are 30%. The forest conservation is 30% of the site. The site area is preserved through preserving 42% of the existing forest. And then there's another something around 38, I think I have the number here, 35,000 square feet of reforestation. That ends up being 30% of the entire site. Now, what I want to show you, because I'm kind of jumping ahead to, we've talked about the connections. Let me jump ahead to the forest conservation, since that's been a topic of tonight. If you see this existing conditions plan, the surveyed forest area is located in this location and in this location. There are roughly 14 structures on this site, all in various vacant and degraded states. The forest is somewhat degraded. Back here, where it's least touched, is where it is in the best condition. This is Bay Village Drive. It cuts straight through. It goes through the non-tidal isolated wetland, and it cuts the forest, which comes up to here. Our design is based around this future connection. We have to put houses down here in roads, and we have to put houses in roads down here. This is roughly 54 down to 48 elevation, and up here is 62. We have to connect over here to 54. That means we have over 1.5 acres to 2 acres of fill, 4 to 5 feet of fill, which is very expensive, but it prevents the preservation of forest. We preserved as much as we could, and believe me, I don't want to go into any project not having reached the threshold. But what that means for this project is that we have an additional 13,000 square feet of mature canopy after you do all of the calculations. Because when you clear more than the threshold allows, you have to do a 2-to-1. So you end up with more forest. And I would argue at this point, with the state that the forest is in 30 years after this is developed and built, you will have a healthier forest. There'll be more eyes on it, there's gonna be more maintenance on it, there's gonna be more care. In landscape architecture, what we say is a well-used place is a well-loved place and is a well-maintained place. So the forest is conserved in a way, such as you see, based on the site constraints, needing to connect to Bay Village Drive Road as well as the sewer system that's over here, and having to gravity drain the housing to that, and just the slope of the space. We do have, I think it's like 24 specimen and significant trees. We are preserving all of the specimen trees that are designated as good, in good condition. They're very light on the plan, but you can see them in here. So we are, I think we're only removing 9 of those trees. In addition, this reforestation is positioned because it is adjacent to this new development's forest conservation area. There is also a preserved wetland right here. By preserving this area, we then protect the natural hydrology of the site. In addition, this greenway becomes enhanced, and as the future plans are made for these adjacent parcels, this greenway can then continue, and the goal is to have a connection over to Quiet Waters Park. I will say, just to kind of end this before I open it up, by code, we can defer to the 370 acres of park space that is within 1/2 acre, or 1/2 mile, sorry, of this site in either direction. However, we believe that having small parks of varying character add to the inspiration of the neighborhood. And we have a 10-foot hike and bike trail along this, like a linear park at the front. 410 linear feet adds to the city's portfolio of hike and bike trails. We have proposed a bike-focused rest area. We'll have a bike repair station in this little plaza right here. This was something Alderman Savage had requested. And that kind of sets the stage for how you enter into the site. It also sets the stage for what future hike and bike connections could become. We then removed another, at one point we had 40, and then we removed it to 39, so that our entry would face right into another park of a different sort of character. As you move through and around the site, we wanted to place the third pocket park adjacent to the reforestation and the forest conservation easement, since we have 1,500 linear feet of wooded trail. This is then a different character, and it's hard to see on the plan, but because of the grade change, these would become terraced walls where you could maybe become seat walls or something like that, with different sitting areas or play space, whatever kind of ends up being the nature of the market that they're going to go for here. And then I think the last thing is that there's 2 controlled access points. There's a light that's existing here, and there's a light existing at where the Starbucks is. And then 26 additional parking spaces. Well, let me see if it's on the existing condition. So it goes to about here.
Edgewood Road extended,
Yeah. The CVS is here, the Sunrise is here, Starbucks is here. And so this is that light. So this goes through and then stops here. This is a private access easement currently. This is the commercial strip that it's kind of an aging commercial strip. But,
Caliente.
yeah, Caliente Grill, Faucets, Marine Supply. And this is currently forested. So the greenway gets created as you move across here.
One of the things that we mentioned here, and it's still relevant, and it becomes a walkable community to Starbucks to the CVS, across the street to the grocery store.
So I think the idea is that, and Chris can speak to this, but I think when it's redeveloped, that would be encouraged, that area would be encouraged to, maybe that would transition at that point to, it could be forested or a little greenway, or it could be more of a commercial trail, trail that's worked into the commercial environment. But that's future, so I mean, that's.
This is a catalyst.
This is a
I think
catalyst.
that we can't cure it all in 5 acres.
You all may be in a position to make it happen in 10 years.
Okay, done?
Sir.
Can I just mention a little bit? This is an annexation. And part of what we have to submit with an annexation is a conceptual plan of how we're going. Council, on the 27th, the city council is going to do their preliminary resolution for annexation. This will be referred to all the different reviewing agencies, whatever boards and commissions the council wants to send it to. Of course, the planning commission is always one of those. Once it undergoes all that review, each commission, each agency will make its recommendations to the city council as to what additional things they might require with annexation. It becomes conditions on the ultimate annexation. At that point, the planning commission is merely advisory. You can sit, it might get interesting, because if the city council approves a conceptual plan with the annexation, that becomes basically a contract between the city and the developer. And that's the plan that we need to move forward with. So I think that needs to be beared in mind when you are going over this plan and giving us all these helpful recommendations, that ultimately the city council is going to approve as part of a conversation, a conceptual plan that we're bound to move forward with, and the city is bound to honor as it moves forward.
So there's no changes?
I would say that there can be changes in the layout, but not some significant changes, because our conceptual plan shows townhouses.
Oh, okay. So townhouses.
That's something that the city has requested that we do.
No, I know, but your conceptual plan is basically townhouses.
Yeah.
So are you suggesting that we're under some sort of pressure to give a nod of approval here tonight?
I'm just explaining the process. I'm not editorializing on it.
And I'd like to point out that when property is annexed into the city, I think there's a number of years, and I'm sure Alan knows, is it 6 years? After that period of time, let's say the Catherine properties, for instance, which was annexed in with little farmettes and tiny and big, lots. After a certain amount of time, that concept plan goes away, and you can start again and put whatever you want there, or put them. But
The
6
zoning
years.
has to be substantially similar coming from the county into the city. And I don't know if it's a 5-year.
5 years.
I think it's
Okay.
5 years. That makes sense, yeah.
So it can't be drastically different, but I would submit that the Catherine properties that was annexed in, when it was annexed in, is substantially different than what was built. So there's a big question about, once annexation takes place, what can be built. I understand what you're saying is your intention is to build this after it's annexed, but I'm just pointing
But
out
the
that
zoning,
it doesn't always happen.
It's C1 zoning in the county, and we're seeking R3 because that's the closest zoning for residential in the county.
And it will come back to you as a planned development once it's annexed.
I think if you change the zoning and you get a higher density zoning when you do your annexation, then I think there's that wait period.
Right.
Right, yeah.
So it might have
Unless the
been that
county
that one
approves
had
it.
a change in the zoning from the county to the city in terms of density equality.
It was going to be substantially less dense, and then it changed substantially. But I'm just pointing that out.
Some ideas?
It's a work session.
Yes.
We want to hear it.
Yes.
Oh, stand aside. You got the red pen.
There are 5 units here. So you can put 5 units around. Less of a street, okay? Less impervious.
But vehicular access still maintained.
Well, you may flip the townhomes.
That's a question. Do you want to face the driveway coming in? Because that was a big, we arranged this.
Was that, so why don't you go over that first? And I hear you idea, and we want to hear it, but we want to make sure that you focus, that we point out what we changed there, because there's a whole lot of fun.
Well, okay,
Towns in here.
okay, it may be, once I finish, it may be that something has moved significantly and
One of the things I want to make sure, no, one of the things I want to make sure that you get, I don't want you to stop. But what happens is, this changed, this building changed, that building changed. So from your last meeting, you said, hey, give us more front loads, because that's what you said. Front load, front load, front load, and then the only alley's here. But you're suggesting, turn it, and then you can go, I just want to make sure you realize that front load, front load, front load, and that's a pocket park.
And this is
I
stormwater
haven't made my
underneath.
suggestions yet.
I'm just making sure that you notice that, I'm not quite sure. I was just making sure.
Okay. 5 units, right? Okay? Okay? First unit, you could add to here. And when we talk about where this might go, it could, that you'll see that it not so bad, because you wanted a little green look here, right? That
I
as
think
you
you
look at.
wanted a green look.
Well, no, I want a community space. That's what I want. Yeah, I want a community space. Here's number 1. I'm not so sure what this reforestation is or what.
That was a Brian Adams suggestion.
Okay, well,
But we still needed to hit our counts, right?
okay, that's number 2. Number 3, where the hell did I put 3? I don't know about this. I'm not. I don't know what use that is. Okay, it may be that we can use that concept of active space or comfortable space and put it someplace else. Okay. 4. I also don't know. This is reforestation. It's not. You're not digging into what you have conserved.
Right.
Possibly 4. Okay? And where did I do with 5? What the heck? 1, 2, there's 5, okay? Think about it. And what would happen is now, if these are gone, okay, and then shift that to here, and you end up with a nice way to invite, it's all green. It's a little park. It's a place where people, rather than being off in the corner as a sort of, well, it's there and it'll end up being trashy. But if it's in the middle and there's lots of eyes on it and people could use it to some extent, it will, and it's also visually coming into the place, that becomes the park.
Can you put a unit there? Number 1.
I know, but you get rid of the, you just go zoop like that, and this ends up being a park.
I don't like the, I
And
don't
you
like,
haven't lost the 5 units.
I think that the unit that close to Bay Ridge Avenue is not a great unit.
Well,
We're trying to keep everything moving away. It's a
okay,
noisy street.
I've made it bigger than it actually is, okay?
One of the challenges is that
Maybe smaller, maybe a 20
you have to be
foot.
able to drag a fire hose 150 feet from this way and this way. And when you put something here, you are pushing people not only against what is going to be a public active area, an active way ideally. That's part of what this reforestation does, in addition to being a suggestion by the city forester.
Doesn't meet the fire.
But it just doesn't meet fire code.
Okay, so bring this down to here, bring this down to here, okay? And do the same thing you did over there. Thank you. Thank you.
Bob, are you saying that a unit goes here?
Saying what?
A unit,
I would take this
Push it back.
stick, and it actually, to have done this right, I would have just X'd that out and left this and then done whatever. But you end up, you haven't lost. I appreciate
What's your
I mean, the
issue?
other
I'm
thing
just
with
going to
the
ask, what's your
one-
issue with these small parks that say they add up to this, what you want in the front?
You know what? I don't think this is going to
Because I don't
get
think
used.
all these neighborhoods have to look exactly the same.
No, I
you know?
don't, yeah.
And this is a small property. This is a Segway property.
If you add this unit here, the reason there isn't a unit here is it past 150-foot fire code, which require you to have a big fire T, 46 feet. Blows out your reforestation and the goals we're trying to meet with preserving specimen trees that are located in this area, foresting here adjacent to this forest.
Where would the fire line have to
If
be?
you put a driveway and you have to extend this road any further than where it is now, you're required to do a fire T.
Bob, I did ask for another one there. but she
Believe
didn't.
me.
She said 150 feet.
This is the max that you can go with a fire truck before you need to put either a connection through, which is then another 50-foot right-of-way, 24 feet of paving.
Okay, what happens down here and what happens here?
So this meets that, so that the truck could come in, back out, and go like this as a fire truck T.
Okay, and so you would have to extend the street down, is that what you're saying?
You could do this one.
Okay,
You're not wrong here, 5, 6. You could do this one. This one won't work because of the road and the right-of-ways that you need. This is the most viable one suggested.
okay, let's keep going. I think this can work.
I need to check I need to check the hose run because, and you don't have so you lose your parking. That was very important to have. And you can't get a driveway in unless you shift this really close to the road, which I'm sure we'll get a comment back that it's too close to the road. We need to have the 50-foot right-of-way, which is a big restriction.
You mean this to here? That's 50 feet?
That's 24.
What's the 50-foot right of
You
way?
have then, you have whatever, 25 divided by 2, what is it, 7? 50, you have, and then you have 25 added up on both sides, on either side. What is that, 12, 13?
I don't know. Look,
Do you see this line? And you see this line?
yeah,
This
That's-
is the 50-foot right-of-way.
Okay.
That's required. This, from here to here is 24 feet, which is required.
okay. Are we running up against city codes that require larger streets than really are necessary?
Yes.
Yes, short answer.
We originally intended.
That's the big discussion.
We built street road width flexibility into the plan development section of the code, but Public Works likes to go with the standard 50 feet of right of way, minimum 24 feet curb to curb of pavement.
And that's not really necessary?
I think so.
Okay. Because this seems like a lot of street here. There's a lot of streets here. There's a
Half
lot
of my
of,
front yard is, most people, half their front yard is city right away.
so anyway, my goal, okay, my goal is to get rid of one of these two, okay? And to provide you with as much as I can provide you with without having, lost your essential goal, okay? That's my goal.
Okay. And I just want to say one suggestion about the design. There are cases where a central common green space works. It's most successful on campuses and in commercial developments where you are there to be seen and to see others. It works in townhouse developments where you have enough space to put a significant amenity like a pool or a large playground or something that will really draw people. But when it is a central green for the sake of a central green, it looks okay, but it's not well used, and they often end up being dead spaces.
So how can we make it lively?
We need more length. I tried your suggestion, and I did a layout for a ring road with the townhouses around the edge. All of the requirements that we have, you don't end up with the green that you're thinking. It's not the sizable green that I think you're thinking, and a lot of it has to go to stormwater. In fact, we need to say that this is a private alley simply because we need subgrade stormwater storage. So I did try your suggestion.
It's just, what's bothering me about this is that you say that Quiet Waters is close, but it's not really close. It's hard to get to. And what's getting me is that it's so concentrated, it's so dense, and there's no relief. It's all at the edge. And I understand your goals with respect, especially with respect to this and, moving on to that.
Right.
It's just so dense. Something needs to give.
It's not. I mean, it's 15% floor area is the coverage of the lot. And if you look at this next door.
I'm looking at all of this, the pavement, the asphalt that's here. I know, but that's for older people living in small little apartments. This is for families. And they need to be able to move around. They need to have something to do. They need to, that's what's getting to me.
Rob, Robert, I think she makes a valid point. I know
Oh,
you
you do.
do. I'm paying her to think about it.
I know you do. I know you are. And so thank you.
Here's and we did, I tell you, we've been in this room more than once in the site plan trying to, okay, how can we meet it? How can we hit it? And what happens is that wouldn't work, it couldn't work, we have other requirements that we have to meet. And here's the other part. Now, I've built over 40,000 homes in my career, and I've done housing communities. And I can tell you, the ones that I have open space like that, they go dormant, they go dry, they're not sprinkled. They're little pockets, they take possession of them. Well, the community takes possession because they can manage it, they can handle it.
The vision that I think you're looking at is Parkside Preserve. Pocket Park down, Lennar is selling single families in there. They've closed out their townhouses. You're looking at that central common area there where all the townhouses line up to it. It's just right down the road. That is a nice greenway with it. But the units in there, there's 44 plus all the townhouses that were already closed out. This site plan is 30. It's not the same type.
Okay, so let's keep going, okay? You say pocket parks are more successful?
So this is developing, and the goal I hear is less suburban type development. We're not doing single family homes. We're trying to find a compromise between we need housing, but we need all these other features as well.
Okay, so
If you acknowledge that this is a corridor where your uses extend beyond your parcel line, then the hyper focus of this right here loses the broader vision of the experience of the neighborhood. This is a neighborhood, but this is the neighborhood too.
I know, but this is the neighborhood. I mean, this
This
is where
is the
people live. This is
neighborhood.
where people live.
This
So-
is where people are active and move and
Okay,
buy and sell
okay,
and
okay.
become friends with the people who they buy and sell from.
I'm not personally convinced by that, but what I am beginning to think about is, as Tom said, so tell me more about pocket parks.
So, pocket parks are successful in, I want to say more urban areas, but they offer the experience of discovery. Okay, so you're walking here, you have this moment where you can sit, you discover what's here. There's a bike stand, there's benches. You can watch the traffic. You can watch the bikers and the runners. You
That's
come
not-
into here. This is more of what ends up happening with your central green, where it's nice to look at. People might sit here. They might walk their dog here. But there's too many eyes on it. It's too visible. It really just functions as a buffer, which is what your central green ends up being, is a buffer. And then this becomes where people desire to go.
Okay, where can we do something like this? Where, like, for instance, if these are cut, is there enough room to do something in there? Does that make sense? Or is that too confined? Do you follow me? Instead of on the end, in the middle. To do more, this, I'll grant you, without knowing much, looks like maybe it'll work, okay? But I think you want something else more in the center that's like that.
Since you picked up a unit back there, could you move one of these and just make this whole grander and bigger without?
Or in the middle, spreading them? Because you've got this crosswalk here.
I mean, our reforestation is really tight, and that is a spot with stormwater. I'm not opposed to the suggestion. At the end of the day, I have to defer, but we are really, really tight with trying to meet the goals of the city with reforestation and while also cleansing stormwater. We're not allowed to do the stormwater under public roads. And that's something that, would be very helpful to be able to do.
What's your thought about parking? What could be done here?
You lose the park. Parking's there because of the experience at Parkside Preserve and what.
Oh, I see, okay. But I'm asking you what your feelings are about the parking that's available here and whether it's all necessary.
I think some fewer spots could be, you could eliminate some fewer spots. You could.
Okay. Does that, do you understand where I'm getting?
Yes, and we'll, we can consider it. I like this idea. Maybe I don't know, I'll try and figure out something.
Because one of the things I also learned is that the small urban parks are actually the most successful. That's where people go. They feel like they're in the neighborhood. They know people who come every day and yada, da, da, da.
As long as they have something they can look at.
Something they can look at, right. And so I'm just trying to find places where that can be. And since I'm the kind of guy who believes in something central, I don't know
But
what.
that's not always going to work, and that's,
Yeah.
I mean, the
I wanna-
neighborhood we just discussed on Admiral Drive is very similar to what you're describing. It works there's more property.
Right.
This is a tight property. I agree with what you said. You're connecting this community here. And this is just kind of a segue for that, so you may not get that big park right up
No,
front.
I understand. I'm looking for small ones. I'm really looking for,
Yeah.
small ones that can be maintained, the land,
Yeah.
that do have, whatever people put in, a bench, a
I
swing.
think some detailing of that could take place in terms of. One thing that's credit they've done, but they really haven't bragged about, is that, or the fronts of the houses. This is what you see. It's
Right.
classic urban design.
Right.
These townhouses aren't set back with some fake yard in front or a garage. Same thing here. So this street, this main street coming through is Annapolis. It's the front of the townhouses that you see. They're up close in an urban way. Walkable. And
So it
so
looks
that's
like
an
a Main
overall,
Street
yeah,
kinda
that was an
thing.
overall design approach here. And then from that, everything else sort of starts shifting because you don't want the rear of one to back up against the front of the other and these complexities. And the only compromise of that was back here where these, and then the builder's gonna have to really dress up the rear of those townhouses to really make them. And preserve. But there's just this, the margins of the forest areas become themselves a well-maintained. Get through the trail system in a visible way through a park, then you've opened up the whole forest as an amenity that is there present. And to their credit, they didn't calculate everything towards their open space. They just calculated the trail itself. So they're being very modest in terms of what they're doing, but they're delivering a recreational amenity and in addition to these small.
Okay, okay, I'm backing off from, whatever. But I really, if this is a success, okay, then I think it should be replicated. And I'm not so sure that that's big enough. Okay. But something up for the people up in here.
Problem with that corner.
And I wouldn't put it up on the street because it's too busy, that street. I wouldn't sit there to watch the traffic. I mean, you know what I mean?
That was really like the bike thing.
Yeah, that's nothing. That's just a stand. That's nothing. But I think I do, and I like the fact that it's pulled back. It's pulled back.
How come that isn't up and pulled back in the top right?
This?
Yeah.
What do you mean, why we didn't pull?
I think that's just a mistake in the
So
rendering.
ideally, we don't want sidewalks right up against busy streets like that, and that looks like that's the
Buffer,
busy
yeah,
street.
there's no buffer right there.
So could this run like this?
There's a small buffer. I think one of the challenges is it's not showing on here, but the power poles. There's overhead lines, and we're avoiding a power pole here, and we have to connect into the bike over here. So I think there's.
No, we could change that up. We could look at all that because it could go behind them.
Keep it pulled back all the way through as far as the road. The idea, like,
Yeah.
if we could get
There's a larger
4 or
buffer
5
over
feet,
here and try to
exactly. Yeah,
increase
if we
this
could get
over
4 or
here.
5 feet
We probably could do
between
that.
the walkable area and then where the cars are driving, that'd be fantastic. I know
Okay.
when I'm walking on Spa Road, it literally feels like the mirrors are clipping my car.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we can shift this back some. We have some space.
As far as that park up front, like. Bike specific.
Right.
Type of thing.
Not a seating place. It doesn't strike me as a seating place.
I mean, there's seating areas, a lot of bikers will congregate in certain areas. We see that at Waterworks a lot, where they do put like a little area
I
where.
mean, this is where you kind of have to think about the community. So this is going to change over. What is that going to be? Does this become an amenity for that as this hike and bike trail then continues on? Does this then plug into some kind of experience and usage of that trail?
And that's what I'm understanding here as well, that this is meant to plug in the future to to more. So this will be public access to be able to, not just for the community, but anybody will be able to walk here?
Only if they,
You do that, you can't block it, but.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is opportunity to continue wooded trail as neighborhood properties, right? So I envision the idea is that this would connect to other communities. So this way it would be open for people to be able to access and
Well,
use.
Eventually get to Quiet Waters.
Yeah.
And that, you could be talking to the county right now about their Doesn't overlay with their Greenway plan, but it'd be great to see that, because
Okay,
that would.
sure.
And, you know, you can do the same thing to Powell Park. It'd probably be easier to get to Powell Park.
The Powell Park, you can get
If you can
halfway
go the
there.
back way,
That's
if
what I
there's a
mean.
back way, right.
You can get halfway there using the existing road that connects over by the fire department, and then you're almost there. So there's just that little jump right after that, and I don't know, you could go, there's another way through here maybe.
Like the green.
But you don't have to walk on Bay Ridge Road most of the way to get to Powell Park. So that's starting to form this idea that the city wants.
So back off, small places, okay? You have to put in that same thing that
The stormwater under the underground.
flow or whatever. Round 3 coming up. All right, anything else?
That would be after we're annexed. We start
Excuse me?
That would be after we're annexed and start pursuing plan development.
I don't know how closely you're held to concept plans.
I think we're generally, I think it's very general.
That's what I mean,
Yeah.
it's general. You're okay.
But you're not going to radically alter the theory behind what you're trying to do.
You mind passing me those binder clips?
Oh, no. Can you bring it in if you want? You're going to be in the office anytime soon?
No, but you did a good job.
Bring your license plate.